Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and I want to show you a bracelet I designed. It's called the Water Lily bracelet. I have it in two different colorways, and I'm using a kind of made-up stitch that I did. I call this the Water Lily bracelet because these beads look like petals, and I've done it in a couple different colorways here, and I'm going to do it in a third color to show you exactly how to do it. And we're going to be bead weaving this using the 2-needle method, and it's a stitch I just kind of came up with because I wanted to figure out how to use these Piggy beads, which have 2 holes that are off-center drilled. I really wanted to figure out how to use them in bead weaving, so I just kind of started playing and made up this pattern. When it's finished, I'm going to show you here, it measures, well, if you count the bead here, almost 8 inches, the design I'm going to show you here, but really it's more like 7 3/4. And then something to kind of keep in mind when you're figuring out how long you want to make this, each little cluster, if you count a cluster from this whitish color beads to the end of the Piggy beads, is about 1/2 inch. So that'll give you some idea of how many Piggy beads you need and how long you want to make this. So without further ado, let me show you what you're going to need. You're going to need some Piggy beads. And if you go onto our website, beadaholique.com, you'll be able to purchase these, and I'll show you the quantity you need. You're also going to need some little 4mm beads. I have Czech fire polish. You're also going to need a 6mm round bead. I have some Swarovski gem color pearls. You're going to need an 11/0 seed bead. Try to use a seed bead that's pretty uniform. I have a Toho that I'm using here. I would not recommend using like a Czech or a tri-cut just because of you want it to be pretty uniformly spaced, and these are nice and uniform. For my thread, I'm using Wildfire at 0.006, and for my needles, I'm using size 12 beading needles. You'll notice that I don't have any type of finding on here. I actually just went ahead and I made the clasp using the materials I already had. I like to do that whenever possible. I really like it when a bead woven project has a bead woven clasp. So you can see just like that, and that's actually really secure. So it's just, like I said, using the supplies that I already had. And all I needed then was a pair of scissors. So to start with, let's go ahead and start making this project. And I actually start from this end here minus the little extra part here, minus the clasp, which I add at the end. So I've taken 2 yards of the 0.006 Wildfire thread, and I've put a needle on each end. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up 8 beads with 1 of my needles. So I've got 8 beads on there. I'm just going to slide those down to the midway point, so they're right down at the bottom. Going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up one of my 6mm pearls, put it through 1 needle, slide it down a bit, and then go through the pearl again the opposite way using my other needle. So I'm crisscrossing my threads, and I'm letting it slide down to the bottom, just like so. Now I'm going to pick up with my right needle 1 seed bead and a Piggy bead. Now I'm going to pick up a Piggy bead going from the concave side, not the dome side, and the bottom hole closest to the edge. It's real important that you always pick up your Piggy beads in the same direction when you're doing this. Otherwise, they're not going to overlap the way you want them to. All right, so I slid that down, and now I'm going to pick up 3 more beads on my needle, slide those down my thread, and then go into the hole, the top hole, that middle hole of my Piggy bead, and pull. So everything I've done so far on this side has been using the right needle only. So I'm just going to put that aside, and I'm going to repeat that same process on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up 1 11/0 bead. Again, I'm going to pick up a Piggy bead, and I'm going to go through that side hole, the one that's closest to the edge, going from the concave side out to the dome side, slide it down. Now I'm on the outside dome side of my Piggy bead, and I'm going to pick up 3 more beads and go through that center second hole of the Piggy bead. Okay, so this is what we've got so far. Now, I'm going to take my needles, and on one of them, on the right-hand side, you can reverse this if you're left-handed. It's not going to really make any difference. I'm going to go ahead and pick up one seed bead, one of my Czech fire polish 4mm beads, and another seed bead. So I got a cluster of 3 beads on this needle. Gonna go ahead, I'm holding them together because it makes it a little bit easier, but I'm sliding them down. And now I'm going to take my other needle, my left-handed side, go through all 3 beads so that my threads crisscross. And I want to pull these down towards my Piggy beads. And I actually want to go back now, so you'll see I'm on the right-hand side. I want to go back down and into that middle hole on my Piggy bead. With this needle. And I want to do that on the other side as well. So when you first start this project, you just really kind of have to make sure that you're, paying attention to where your needles are, where your thread is at. It gets easier as you go. Okay. All right, so this is what I've got. I'm going to pull it, and I just made my first cluster. Now to jump up to get another one of these beads on, I'm going to string 3 beads onto my needle along with one of my middle 6mm beads. Pull that down, trying to keep these needles on the same side so you can hopefully, see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, so that was just all on the right needle. Now I'm going to pick up 3 beads on my left needle, slide them down, okay? And now it's time to crisscross again. So I need to go back through that middle bead and pull, and we have a cluster. So basically at this point, we're just starting over. So minus this little loop that we made to begin with, we're just going to start over and we're repeating our pattern. So I'm going to do it with you again so you can see. So I want to pick up 1 seed bead on my right needle along with 1 Piggy bead on that outer hole. Again, going from the concave side out to the dome side. And I'm going to pick up 3 more of my Tohos. Again, I'm still using just my right needle. I'm going to go in through that middle hole and pull. Okay, put this needle aside. It helps if you have a beading mat. You can just stick your needle in your beading mat. And then I'm going to take 1 bead, again, pick up another Piggy bead, always paying attention to that which hole I'm going into. Now I need to pick up 3 more seed beads, pull it down, and go through that middle center drilled hole. Okay, so this is where we're at. So now we need to make the center part again. Helps if you don't have all these other objects on your work table. I might suggest clearing them off, but I kind of wanted you to be able to see what we're doing, like the finished products as we're in here. So I need to make that middle section. I'm going to pick up a seed bead, a Czech fire polish, and a seed bead. All 3 of them again are together on my needle. I'm going to pull it down my thread, going to take my left needle, crisscross, go through the opposite direction, and pull. And now I want to go back through that middle hole of my Piggy bead I say middle, it's just because it is in the middle of the piggy bead. It's the second hole. It's just the one that's not off to the side. Now I want to do that on the opposite side as well, because I got to get on the outside of that piggy bead. And pull. Okay, now we need to step up to add another pearl. So 3 seed beads on my right needle and a pearl. Slide them down. 3 seed beads on my left needle, slide them down, and now need to crisscross again so that my left goes over to my right, and pull, and we just made another cluster. And we're just going to continue doing this for the length that you want your bracelet to be, remembering that your clasp is going to add a good 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, and that each one of these clusters is about 1/2 an inch. So that kind of hopefully gives you a good idea of measurements. So I'm going to finish this off camera, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'm going to show you then how to do this part right here and this part right here. And you just keep repeating this until you end up with your desired length. So I'm almost done with my bracelet here, and I'm needing to add the last cluster. So I've got the bead, the main pearl, and now I need to do this part up here. So I want to show you how to do that. So to start, it's just going to be the same way you're doing all your other clusters. We're going to add a seed bead, followed by one of your piggy beads, same exact direction we've done everything up to this point. So then I'm going to add 3 more beads. Like so. Repeat on the other needle. So seed bead, piggy bead, 3 more beads. Go through your piggy bead again on that middle center hole. So this is the same that you've been doing the whole time. There's nothing has changed at this point. And we're going to add that middle section with the Czech glass bead. Crisscross, pull that down, go back through our piggy bead, do that on both sides so your needle is coming up the outside of the piggy bead. All right, so all of that was the same, and now it's only at the very end here that we're going to change anything. So let me pull the sample back so you can see what's happening. So we need to make this arch, which is actually going to act as the loop for our clasp. And to do that, we're going to add 11 beads onto one needle. Got 11 beads. Let me just double check. Yep. All right, go ahead and slide that down. And what you're going to do is before you pull it too tight, you're going to pass your other needle through those beads going in the opposite direction. So again, you have a needle on each side. Pull those down. And now I want you to go back through your piggy bead and through that middle section to the other side. And you're going to do that with both needles. So you're basically creating a giant loop. And that's going to help to really secure these end beads. We're going to do that with the other needle as well. And I'm just passing through all that center stuff and coming out the other side. Okay, and pull down. And now go ahead, you can start to tie off your needle at this point, your needle and thread. So I'm just going to create a knot right here. Like so. And now I'm going to go back through these side beads. Create another knot. You're just making sure that this is really good and secure. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So basically we are just tying off our thread at this point and incorporating the tail into the beadwork. Now, one thing I do want to caution you with this project is you really don't want to have to add more thread as you go. In some beadwork projects, you know, that's really easy and it's actually necessary if you're doing perhaps a large peyote bracelet or something like that. You just expect that you're going to have to add more thread as you go. But because of this doubled needle method and just the way that the beads work with this stitch, it's really hard to add more thread. So I would recommend definitely starting with that 2 yards of thread. It should be plenty for you. If you are going to make this into perhaps a necklace or something else, add more thread before you begin, just because I don't want you to have to add as you go. It's just not going to really work. All right, so now at this point, I'm just working my tail into my beadwork and I'm just retracing my steps. I'm going to do that on both sides. And you can do this for as long as you want. If you feel more secure tying a couple extra knots, or you want to really work this tail into your project, go for it. That's secure. But whatever you want to do, of course, feel free to. So at this point, I am going to just cut my threads. If you have a thread zapper, go ahead and use that. I just have the scissors on my table, so I'm going to use them. Okay. So the main part of your bracelet is done. And now what we need to add is the little ball at the end. And that is going to be the other part of your clasp. And to do that, again, we're going to use 2 needles. So I'm going to cut myself some thread. You don't need a lot of thread because it's going to be a very short little add-on. But we are going to want to put a needle on each end. All right, so before I do this, I do want to show you one thing that you could do as a variation. Let's say you don't want to do a clasp like this. You would rather do like a lobster or another type of clasp. All you really need to do would be to capture a closed jump ring inside here as you're doing your stitch before you make, before you crisscross your threads and stitch it all up on both sides. Just put a little closed jump ring in there. And then what you can do is attach an open jump ring to your lobster clasp or whatever type of clasp you might want to use, and then you can secure it that way, or a toggle. There are a lot of options. I just really wanted to do this project all with beads and not have a metal finding, but you can definitely do whatever you want. To add my little ball, what I'm going to do is I originally started with 8 beads here on this outer loop, so I'm going to go through 2 of them because I want it to be even with one of my needles. It's the 2 center ones. So now I've got my 2 threads, and now I'm going to add some seed beads. I'm going to add 3 seed beads to each needle and slide them down. Now I'm going to add 2 more, and on these 2 I'm going to slide them partway down my thread and then take my other needle and go up through them. So I'm not going in the opposite direction in this instance, I'm going in the same direction. Okay, slide those down. So you can see I've made like a little V. And now I want to add my pearl. So I'm going to put it on with 1 needle, and again, going the same direction, I'm going to put my other needle through there. Slide him down. Okay, you're kind of getting the idea of what I'm doing here. So now I'm going to go through 1 more seed bead, and again, both needles are going to go through it. And now I'm just going to loop back around and go back down through my pearl and through these 2 beads, and with 1 needle come out of this set of 3 beads, and with the other needle come out of that set of 3 beads. Okay, so I went through 2, Now I'm going to go through the side 3 with 1 needle. And I'm going to go through, go back down through that pearl, kind of doing this upside down a little bit so you can hopefully see a bit better in the video. Okay, so I came out the 2, and now I'm going to go back down through the other side 3. There we go. All right, now I'm going to pull because I want that to be nice and tight, just like so. And now I can start tying off my thread again. So again, like the other side, tie it off as many times as you feel you need to. I'm going to do a little double knot in here. And then I'm going to weave back through some more beads. Make another little knot. Okay, I'm going to do that on the other side as well. And I'm just going to go through this bead, through my pearl, and then I'm going to do the same on this side. Again, crisscrossing my threads. Might take a little while to get used to the double needle method, but it's actually really fun, especially with these 2-hole beads. And you'll find that your projects work up really fast. Okay, so that I feel is pretty secure. Just going to trim off my thread. And we have a completed bracelet. And then you just take the ball and you put it through the loop on the other side. There you go. And that's nice and secure. And now to undo it, just push it through there and you have a finished bracelet. So again, this is the Water Lily bracelet tutorial, and you can find this project and more on Beadaholique.com.